The Healthcare Council of Chicago, known to our local stakeholders as HC3, is where collaboration meets transformation. At HC3, it's more than just a network. We are building a movement.
Frankly, there are a lot of organizations in town which promise to do similar things to HC3 in terms of convening people, working on important issues, especially health equity, etc. But when I met with Megan, what I discovered is, you really not only talk the talk, but you really follow through on things. This year, we did a pitch competition, an innovation challenge on mental health innovations for early career professionals. I met early in the process with Megan, and it wasn't only a sense of like how to promote it in the newsletter and get the word out on it, but she actually helped us conceive of what the event could be. And we've had a lot of partners, but HC3, Megan specifically, is really passionate about the issues, is really knowledgeable, and is willing to share her knowledge and share the network. So it was a very successful program. We wouldn't have been able to do it without HC3's help.
We need to collaborate together. There is not a shortage of people. There is a shortage of services. We have to advocate for people who cannot advocate for themselves. Before I became an advocate, there was someone advocating for me, someone advocating for my children and other people who suffered from this horrible disorder. Recovery is possible. What we need to do is we need to come together, and coming together will make us stronger so that we can advocate for the people who are less fortunate and who don't know how to advocate for themselves.
We try to always be respectful of the communities that we're going in. Unfortunately, in a lot of situations, the NIMBY, not my backyard, everybody sees the need for it, but maybe not down the street for me. So we always try to involve the community that we go into so that they understand what we do. And we also encourage our residents to become part of that community, to be part of the fabric that is surrounding them so that they're viewed as a productive member of the community. We always go with the model that we're there to make it better. We make sure that it's a safe, welcoming place to be.
Our main goal is to help people with disabilities live self-directed lives in their communities of choice, right? So we want folks to be able to be as independent as they would like in the spaces and the ways that they would like to be independent. And we're disability-led and run, so we use a lot of lived experience and peer support to empower and enable folks to thrive.
Where does the rubber meet the road to helping to navigate that and elevate those ideals?
A lot of what we're doing in our disability inclusion work is having conversations, providing education on things like ableism and unconscious bias that we all carry with us every day in all that we do, and recognizing that and averting and changing our behaviors and our thought patterns towards people with disabilities. Those kind of are the initial conversations that we're having to even get in the door to have conversations about some of the more systemic belief patterns and issues that exist around capability and capacity of people with disabilities.
Maven Project chose to partner with HC3, quite frankly, because they are a trusted partner in Chicago. And while I believe very strongly in our Maven Project mission, it's often difficult just to get in front of the eyes of the decision makers in healthcare systems. They're very busy, they often have a lot on their plate, but HC3 was able to facilitate some meaningful connections in the community, which helped us start the conversations with the right people that allowed us to drive change.
What we ask our frontline workers to do is truly heroic, but the only thing that you hear is the noise and the challenges. But I think what gives me hope is that there are workers who say, I want to do that. I'm going to stay with this young person in the office overnight because there are no other options. Government is so good and so powerful if it is done in community. And that is absolutely what we are trying to do.
There was an individual that the nurses and doctors on the floor saw engaging other people on the floor with humanity. This individual was a formerly incarcerated individual. One of our lead managers spent time with this individual on the floor, spent time on campus, and we end up hiring him. My overall vision for the program is that an actual survivor of violence through this process or through these structural mechanisms tied to hyper-incarceration is actually leading this program.
We work in a stressful environment. I think most organizations and most jobs will say at some point, it's just stressful, and it's just going to be stressful. And there's never really a time where you have a downtime where it's not stressful. It's just stressful. It is the inability or the lack of tools to manage through that stress on a continuous basis, or to build some resilience and muscle that kind of help you manage through that stress. But when I start to hear, oh my gosh, this is never going to work, and the cynicism creeps in and it's consistent, that's my number one signal that employees are burned out. When they just don't see a way for it to happen, we've got to be able to, as employers, provide the resources and the tools to help people manage that.
Third Horizon Strategies has been a member of the corporate coalition since its founding, but HC3 is both a member and a collaborative partner in thinking about how we are communicating around employer practice change. It's just so powerful to be able to have not just the conversations that we're able to have at our corporate coalition meetings, but then to have them go deeper because of the kind of industry-specific ways that HC3 is looking at healthcare in a broad spectrum, and not just hospitals, but other folks that are intersecting within the healthcare field. The benefit of what HC3 has to offer in the platforms you have, similarly like to what we are trying to do in terms of elevating the companies that are willing to do business unusual, is where are healthcare, able to lead and to share their voice more publicly.
This is the HC3 podcast, and I'm your host, Megan Phillip.
There's this African proverb in English. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go farther, go together. And so partnership and collaboration are just key elements, and it's central to our efforts to really make an important dent on the disparities that we're currently seeing.
We talk about truer care. That's an acronym. We love acronyms in healthcare. The T stands for trauma-informed. The R, respectful. U, unconscious bias checked. E, evidence-based. And then the last R for truer is reproductive well-being centered. And that term, reproductive well-being center, is really thinking about your patients across their lifespan. How can we systematically be high performers in providing high quality care at hospitals? How do we help you make sure that the care you provide is safe, it's standardized, and you do it routinely, no matter who walks in that door?
There are some really exciting pathways in healthcare. And I think we have an obligation to do more in terms of letting young people know what those pathways are. That's happening. We've got to think creatively about how to show what those pathways are and get people excited about it.
You got to be intentional about health equity. You got to be intentional about DEI. And I think it's the same way with artificial intelligence. I can't even put a multiple on how fast it is. But all of that, if we do not advocate and continue to fight for diverse inputs into those things, I don't know that we'll get the outcomes we desire.
I think in the Chicago landscape right now, there is so much innovation and incredible work happening, and I really have appreciated being connected to these other projects and seeing how others are leading. And there's more and more proof points than there was a decade ago, and that's really exciting.
I am definitely looking to partner with HC3. I see Megan as like an honorary member of my advisory board. When I share ideas, I leave even more inspired. I feel very welcome and believed in and supported with HC3. And that's very important to me as a Black woman. It really is, because I have to hold my own out here. I know what I'm doing, and I understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I understand representation. It matters in our communities. To have the backing that I have and to come with fresh new ideas and not to feel like it's something that I'm not capable of creating. when I lead the conversation, but instead it's you champion it. You like, man, how can I help? That matters. And it matters more than money. It matters more than anything. Just having someone to believe with you.
Working alongside visionary leaders, innovative thinkers, and dedicated doers, we are united by the belief that building thriving communities requires collective action, not the efforts of any one sector alone. This is more than just the healthcare sector stepping up. It's a movement powered by our members' generosity, both financial and in action, and by our partners' groundbreaking thought leadership and real-world innovations. Together, we are shaping a future where every community in Chicago can flourish.